I mentioned earlier that we spoke about ideation and prototyping, but then there are, you can expand this, you can stretch this a bit. The stretch is like this: first you empathize with the customer, second is you define what is his problem, and therefore you define what is the solution, then you ideate how to make the solution possible, then you come to the prototype and you come to the testing phase. So, this is another way of looking at it. So, it stretches what we called as 2 stages into 5 stages. Basically, the whole emphasis here is focusing on the customer, observation, collecting and recording the needs, and developing solutions based on that, and moving into the prototype. Why is this different from, let us say, what you call market research? So, when you look at market research, you try to understand how the product is functioning and ask certain questions as to what the customer wants out of the product. But when we look at this kind of phase, you are actually sitting with the customer, you are observing the customer and you are trying to find out what else could make his life easy and different. So, when you look at this, the entire gamut we created earlier is an idea phase and a prototype phase. But once you do that, it is almost like a manufacturing phase also, because you have to do the design, you have to do the development, come to the production, sales and marketing, service, promotion, quality, product portfolio. So, this entire idea of ideation prototype is the foundation of setting up a new company, because at the end of it you are going to market it, and to market it you have to go through the established product portfolio. But the only difference between design thinking and the way of doing things in an organization functionally is that all the organizational functions and activities are around the customer. They help the organization avoid silo thinking, they eliminate functional conflicts and transmission losses. Now, many of you would have heard the word concurrent engineering. You may ask how design thinking is different from, because concurrent engineering came into being particularly in the automobile industry, because people found that when you design and develop a product, probably it is either over engineered for the plant or under engineered the plant, the quality was not fit for the purpose, nor the service was not really ready to take on the product. So, there were gaps, the value chain was in a way broken, it was impacted by the silo thinking. So, people said that all the people should work together and concurrently engineer a product, so that it is done in the right manner for the market. So, how is this different from what we call here as design thinking? The difference is that in concurrent engineering it is a process flow, it is a project management approach. You have a clear plan of what you want to do and get all the functions to execute in such a manner that there are no breaks, there are no disconnects, and it is delivered in a very efficient manner to the customer. But on the other hand, the design thinking approach is not looking at these aspects. Design thinking sits with the customer and tries to find out what the customer requirements are, and then looks at how do I really get this customer need defined as a product. Now, we have got 4-5 examples here. This is a very famous example of design thinking. People used to have shopping baskets, and the result of that was that it was difficult for people to carry little more than what the shopping basket would carry, and they also had the limitation that each time they would only buy this much, whereas the shop had got so many goods to offer, which means that either the customer had to make repeat rounds of visits, or he would just be happy with whatever he or she bought, and the business is sub-optimized. So, the first idea is that why not we give a shopping cart, just simply put some wheels. So, the first ever model was a skeletal model, wherein a kind of box was made and wheels were provided. But then that was not very efficient. So, a more elegant shopping cart which is fully balanced, which can be stocked in the mall as well as in the outside parking area, and which also could accommodate a child in terms of sitting, which was graded for different types of products, was developed. So, sitting with the customer, observing the customer's buying practices enabled the store owner to develop a shopping cart. So, it is because of the customer orientation that was there, and in the process got the business upscaling done. Same is with the suitcase. How much weight can you carry? Can you carry 7 kilos? Maximum 10 kilos, beyond that it is not possible. But use of the introduction of trolley was a revolution, very simple idea of putting wheels onto the suitcase, but it is design thinking. How does the customer benefit? Similarly, from processed food to ready to eat food, and having a bottle which comprises medicine to making this bottle child proof, that is, unless you open it with a little type of discrete pressure which only an adult can do, a child cannot access. So, this is where the design thinking works and comes up with some creative solutions, not always with very sophisticated technologies. So, what does design thinking do in when you are doing the ideation or when you are doing the prototype? How is the design thinking helping you? First, design is a pure technical process. I want to set what my materials are, what my specifications are, I define the manufacturing tolerances, I assure the overall finishes, I think of the color schemes, etc., etc. Whereas, in design thinking, design is a consumer fulfillment process, that is, how does this design make consumer feel more fulfilled. Therefore, all the things which we have must be there, but we also must have certain other categories. First, it should be fit for purpose quality. Second, it should be targeted for ease of use, because consumer is happy when it is used for use. When you compare certain sachets with certain other sachets, you will find that it is very easy to tear. So, that is called ease of use. So, you are observing the difficulties faced by the consumer in trying to open a pouch, and you have provided some kind of benefit to this. Then the unboxing experience, how difficult it is to unbox a particular product, and what are all the various components which are available for you to start off the use immediately. Then the ease of service. So, the technical components of the design process coupled with the customer oriented bells and whistles or supports which come from the design thinking, they make this whole product a more fulfilling process. And when we look at the design process, the triggers are usually in terms of market research, as I said earlier, and then the base is the current product. Suppose I have this pen, it has got a particular stylistic option, I can put the finger in this manner. Could there be a different way of doing this? Could it also be used for projecting somewhere else, or could it be used for different colors to come at the same time? So, these are all the improvements. So, the current product is the basis for the design process and it improves. Then obviously performance, new technology, compatibility with my manufacturing infrastructure, these are all part of the design process. Whereas, the triggers for design thinking process are different. I keep this product with the consumer, how is he going to use? One of the important aspects which even very big companies miss, they put the physical buttons next to the phone, they forget to see how a typical consumer uses the fingers, and that could cause lots of issues for the product itself. So, living through consumer experience with empathy, developing insights on issues, and developing the solutions in an inspired manner, and do not rest until you get the most fulfilling solution. So, to summarize this, developing a technical solution or an engineering solution is a relatively simple and normal construct. If you have knowledge, if you have got good trained engineers, you can develop a good technically viable and satisfying product. But developing the right features that help the users feel happy when the product is actually working is a bigger challenge, and that is where the design thinking tries to apply itself. Now, design thinking is not, again, as I said, simply an organizational process, it is more an emotional process. The emotional process which combines the emotions of the customer when he uses a product with the supply side capabilities of the firm. What are the supply side capabilities? I have a laboratory, I have a plant, I have people, I have distribution chain. Whereas the customer, he has got needs, he has got desires, the budgets, quality of life. So, how do I combine these demand side factors with the supply side factors? I have product technology, process technology capacities, whereas customer has got expectations which he is not able to define in any good manner. They are diverse, they are ambiguous, they are dynamic, and nobody can assure by the time the product is developed, he still remains committed to the idea the same way as he was during the empathetic design stage. So, you have to define a solution that will last the developmental life cycle. And when you come to think of it, again getting back to that, some simple ideas have developed huge revolutions. So, at one level we have got automobile, the tramways, the cycles, the rail tracks, where just a wheel has driven mobility. Without wheel there would not have been mobility. But the same wheel has been applied in the consumer facing activities. We talked about shopping cart and this suitcase, but we have this electric scooter or the scooter wherein school boys can go to school very easily, they can play. Then you have got skiing shoes. So, wheel, a simple object, has led to several revolutions. So, if you jog your mind and look at various other parameters, you will find that simple innovations have led to application of those innovations to other kinds of products. So, why is design thinking important in entrepreneurship and why are we spending so much time? Primarily because unlike the big firms which are focused on the market, they are benefiting from the scale and size they have got, this sheer velocity and momentum of their actions, they have got their own field set up. But entrepreneurial and startup firms have to get into the market, create their markets, therefore, they have to be consistently customer focused, and design thinking makes you customer focused. Second and third, the digitization is helping the customer being more efficient. So, what was the design thinking thing? Bluetooth speaker was converted into an Alexa or a Google speaker. Similarly, an affordable water purifier was made for millions using simple technology. A watch was converted into a health application. Telemedicine has been brought up. So, trying to look at customer requirements, you have come up with new challenges, and this is evolutionary. We said that there is a wheel. Wheel became a gear. Gear needed to transmit, therefore, gear and shaft were combined. But it cannot be only linear transmission, it has to be from one direction, the thing has to go to another direction. So, axles came. So, all these things when they got developed sequentially with thinking, then all the kinds of automobiles came. So, you look at various other products like whether it is a submersible form or whether it is a turbine, you will find that one development led to the another, and not always they were incremental developments, they were all breakthrough developments completely altering the product shape. Now, let us look at passion in prototype development. Why is passion important? Because you may have passion for prototype development, but you really require a total ecosystem for you to make it happen. I am taking the example of a smartwatch. A watch, whether it is a smartwatch or a normal watch, has got a few things which are essential. The blue circles, the case is important, a glass is important, a dial is important, hands are required, a motherboard is required, an operating system, a strap, battery, these are essentials. But if you want to make it really smart, you should have something which is added, which is let us say, you may say that it will be a payment mechanism. You can use this watch to pay your bills, quite possible. Then you can get these things done with the help of investment banks. When you go into the payment mechanism, you have to have approvals from the regulatory agencies to be able to make cross-border payments. Therefore, you should have the ability to deal with multiple countries. You should have the ability to provide multiple SKUs, because if somebody is interested in a watch without payments, you should be able to provide a watch, and if it is a payment thing, you need a special strap which can do the payments, then the packaging, delivery channels. So, when you look at prototype development, it is not just dealing with yourself, but it is dealing with a whole lot of stakeholders who must be brought into the same level of alignment, so that the whole value chain is delivered in a perfect manner. So, what does empathy do, and why does empathy work, and how does it work? Generally, we know that there are two types of W constructs actually. One is keep asking why 5 times theoretically. People say that if you ask a question why for 5 times, you are bound to get a solution. Like a student comes late, so you ask a question, why did you come late? Then he will say that I did not get up in time. You ask him, why did not you get up in time? He says that First he will say that alarm did not function. Then you ask him why, then he said the actually alarm functioned, but I overslept. Why did you oversleep? Because I slept late. So, this is a very commonplace example of drilling down to the lowest possible solution, you will get the real reason. The other way, other construct is that who, what, when, where, why. Why are we doing this product? When you do a product like electric scooter, that is the two wheeler where boys use it, who will use, and what is this apparition about? Is it to be used in mass roads, or it is to be used only in the play fields, and what are the timings when which it can be used, and why is somebody going to use it? Is it for the fun, or is it for the speed, etc. So, when you ask these kinds of basic questions, you will get your needs elaborated, and then on the field solution development happens. So, this empathy exercise finally makes you understand, is this product idea desirable, is it feasible, and is it viable. So, that is the whole idea. So, I earlier alluded to the differences between market research and empathetic analysis. Market research, as I said, is product performance oriented. I ask him, how do you feel about this particular packaged food? Does it have the appropriate package? Does it get cooked properly? What is the taste, etc. Whereas empathetic analysis asks, what else you are looking for in a particular product, what else I can do for you. So, it is customer experience oriented. Then market research is usually done on a huge number of people, and it is based on multiple choice questions, whereas empathetic study is based on very carefully selected customer base. It is done through observations, and it is actually, as a very important concept, co-experiencing with the customer. It is not just asking him a set of answers, but it is just living through the product exam with the customer. Market research looks at big data analytics, makes lots of trend analysis, and it is a high volume, high throughput processing, whereas this one is based on emphasis on deep dive and deep learning for true customer experiences. Market research is usually outsourced to specialized agencies because of the volume involved and because of the efficiency that is there when you outsource this to external vendors, whereas design thinking directly leads you to product ideation. It leads you to developing new products. Therefore, the knowledge which comes out of design thinking, the empathetic phase, has to be internalized and institutionalized. Therefore, it is usually conducted by in-house staff. In market research, improvement is the key goal. How do I improve my product, make it more cost efficient, more consumer efficient, so that I can improve my business. Whereas in empathetic analysis, disruption emerges as a key. How can my product maybe completely obviate the need for existing product, maybe combine one or two products, make it better. So, disruption or transformation is a key takeaway in empathetic analysis. So, these are the significant differences between market research and empathetic analysis. Now, we talked about feasibility, viability, desirability. Here I am presenting a 3D approach. Let us imagine these three to be 3 dimensions of a particular scale. So, on vertical scale you have got the desirability for users, that is, I want a electric car which can go from 0 to 500 kilometers on a single charge. It should not require any other charge time. So, the desirability is 0 kilometer to 500 kilometer. So, that is the vertical axis. The higher the desirability, the greater is the consumer acceptance probably. The second is the technical feasibility. It is fine for you to have that desire, but is it technically feasible? So, when you look at the highest desirability, you will get this married to the lowest technical feasibility. Yes, 1000 kilometers is also possible on a charge, but it is technically infeasible, at least based on the current technology, because the battery pack that will be required will be so huge that the whole advantage of electric vehicle will be negated. So, technical phase is the reverse. When the desirability is low, it can be made very easily technically, and when the desirability is very high, the technical feasibility tends to be low. Then you have got the viability for the firm. When technical feasibility is high, When the desirability is low, then there is the viability, which is easy, that is the firm is already experienced in doing that, therefore, they are able to do it fast. Whereas, if you have the highest desirability, lowest technical feasibility, that means highest technical challenge, then you have got the viability for the firm low. So, when you use this design thinking, you want to arrive at a particular triangle or a vector where you are able to manage the combination in such a manner that you are reasonably successful. So, you look at it, you can say that there is a scaling approach. There is a user desire, which is the vertical dimension, there is a technical feasibility desire, which is the left dimension, then there is the business viability, which is the right dimension. So, as I said, when you have the easiest way of doing, the user desire is low, what is easily made he does not want, he wants the most challenging thing. Technical feasibility is very high, business viability is also very high, but will you select that, because everybody can do that. So, what is so great about it? So, you will not select it. Then you can look at lower middle, middle, higher middle, where these are different kinds of combinations of the desirability, feasibility and viability, and depending on your company's capabilities, the customer requirements, you will choose a particular combination. Ideally, if you are able to get the highest level of user desire, you combat the technical infeasibility, combat technical unviability and make it better, you can select, but would you be able to do it, what kind of resources it takes, therefore, there is a question mark. So, the objective of ideation in as part of design thinking is to combine the highest level of user desire with the easiest paths to technical feasibility and business viability. So, it is easier said than done, but that is the goal. Management of paradoxes is the essence of management actually. What you think is easily done is not easily sold. What you think is difficult to make may be easily sold. So, like somebody said on the stock market, what looks cheap as a stock is not safe, and what looks safe is not always cheap. So, there is a paradox. So, in lives we have paradoxes, and similarly in design thinking, in product development we have got several paradoxes. So, now we are coming to empathetic phase is over, we are coming to identification. So, what do we ideation? We have studied the customer needs, we will convert into measurable specifications. We look at idealistic desires, we come into realistic benchmarks. There are rigid definitions, we come into dynamic prescriptions, because we should be able to make sure this endures over a period of time. Then we have got pure creativity, which is required by the customer, we use it for applied creativity. Then there is segmented thinking, we get into system thinking and architecture. Ease of development and manufacture is there in ideation, but when you come to design thinking, you get to ease of use and service. And most importantly, you design it for the product when you do normal design development, but when you do ideation through design thinking, you have to design it for the environment. So, it requires significant brainstorming within the team as well as with the customers and vendors. So, again let us look at the whole entrepreneurial journey. We have this entrepreneurial self discovery, we discussed about it in the previous sessions. We also talked about the core competencies. In this session we talked about the consumer need can be done in an empathetic manner, and we are focusing on creative ideation and effective prototyping. Thereafter, in the future sessions, we will go into scale up with stability, we will look at commercialization, how do we do the lean manufacturing, how do we convert the right product into a right business idea, how do we validate the product market hypothesis, these are all the other things. But let us focus in the rest of the session on effective prototyping and creative ideation. So, we really looked at several stages, about 10 stages of entrepreneurial journey, from self discovery to putting it into the market, and are focusing in this session on prototyping and ideation. Now, let us go into little bit of philosophy of ideation. Ideation combines the conscious and the unconscious mind, converts abstract to reality. There is a conscious mind which says that I want this, but there is also an unconscious mind which is really not telling the designer or even the customer himself what he or she wants. So, ideation is really a challenge of combining the conscious and unconscious inputs which we have got through the empathetic phase. This ideation can be individualistic or a group endeavor. Obviously, the latter will be more impactful, and there are many approaches to ideation. First basic approach is observe, record, analyze, reinvent. That is the fundamental requirement for ideation. The second stage is exchange, challenge, improve, synergize. This observe, record, analyze, reinvent typically happens in the individual level. If there are 5 people who are participating in this ideation and empathizing phase, they will observe it in the same issue, same product in different formats, and they will record, and then they will exchange, they will challenge themselves, they will improve and synergize. And once they do that, they will present it to their hierarchy or to the rest of the team, saying that yes, this is what we have discovered, and advocate a particular solution. And when you advocate a particular solution and somebody says that yes, it is valid or invalid, finally you come to the synthesize phase. So, ideation is effective when it is cross functional, when it is customer centric, and it is willing to be experimental. If ideation is on beaten lines, then it is not likely to be effective. Therefore, creative ideation is the heart and soul of entrepreneurship. Now, through ideation prototyping, what are the goals which you should have? Obviously, as I said, managing paradoxes is the most important thing. You may be a startup with very meager resources, but still you can aim for the highest quality and the lowest cost. You can aim for lean organization, but you should have agile delivery capabilities. You should have standard design and diversified delivery. Then you should have low batch sizes, high throughput, and high volume, high margin. So, when you are able to combine these paradoxes into a way of doing business, then you will get into sustainable competitive advantage.